This is part two of my parts, I should say 3 and 4 of getting caught up on my 22 for 22. So tomorrow I should be all caught up. I posted a video this morning about leading up, my life leading up before joining the Marines. And so this one, I'm going to do 22 push-ups, then tell you the story about getting the Marines, and I think I'll just do my first tour in Iraq in 2003 for the invasion. So I'm going to knock out my 22 push-ups. All right. So, joined the Marine Corps January 2002. 3 months in boot camp. Went on to some further training, Marine combat training. My job in the Marine Corps was for the first 4 years, it was through artillery primarily. And my job was to, you have the artillery cannon. So you have the cannoneers that fire the artillery cannon. Then you have what's called the fire direction control. They're the ones that compute the solution on where, this cannon can shoot like 12 miles. So any little minor mistake made at the cannon is a big deal on the other end of it. So you have the fire direction control. They do the computations. My job is to be what's called a scout observer. So I would be the one on the receiving end of the artillery, calling in the artillery strike, setting back coordinates, adjusting fires, and making recommendations to platoon commander, company commander of an infantry unit about how to best use fire support. Fire support meaning artillery, mortars, naval gunfire, and then I would assist a lot of times in air officer or something like that in calling in air strikes. So I went through my initial training for that. By the time that I actually hit the fleet, so out of training and into the Fleet Marine Force, so assigned to my unit, 3rd Battalion, 11th Marines, it was 8 months. It's like August. So the mission had already shifted from Afghanistan to Iraq. We don't get tied up in the politics, guys. Where we go and what we do, we could have an opinion about it all we want, but it doesn't change the fact that we're going to have to go there. It doesn't change the fact that we're going to be in harm's way. It doesn't change the fact that we have a mission to do. And it doesn't change the fact that we try and do our mission as honorably as possible, no matter where we're sent. If you have a problem with where we go, call your politician, call your congressman and your senator. It's not our choice, guys. We just have to take care of each other while we're out there, and try and do our best to be good representatives of America abroad, regardless of the political motives behind where we are and what we're doing. Nonetheless, and kill a lot of bad guys. So deployed to Iraq in January, and then we sat in deployed to Kuwait in January 2003, and we sat for like a month and some change in the middle of the desert, and I had a sleeping bag, and we were fortunate enough that we had a wood floor and big old Bedouin tents, and that's what we lived out of for a month. No showers, no no mail. No one had cell phones. We had decks of cards. We had jailhouse gyms that we created out of like big tank bars, huge steel bars and sandbags, and we tried to not go insane. We trained. And if you ever want to see a little bit of what that's like, watch the movie Jarhead. It's actually, the movie is a little better than the book. But because Jarhead's about the first Persian Gulf War. Nonetheless, the time eventually came where we ended up crossing the line and heading into Iraq. And our job, I was attached to 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines. Lima Company is their artillery scout observer. So we planned, coordinated, and executed artillery and mortar strikes on what's called a fire support team. So it would be myself, mortar scout, a couple radio operators, an air officer, an artillery officer, the infantry executive officer, and the infantry company commander. And we went from southern Iraq up through, gosh, it was Al-Assad. No, not Al-Assad. I'm blanking out. I'm losing it. Bayat. No, it's an airport down in the south. I can't think of the name. Hey, Leroy, watch out. Man, it's really bothering me. I can't remember that name. It'll come to me. And that was really then was my first taste in combat. I mean, you don't even know what you're getting into. So all in all, I mean, there's a lot of stories in between that, I mean, you can't even describe what life is like in an all-out war zone. I mean, every minute, every second, you don't know who may or may not have a rifle trained at your head. Moments where you think that you're in safety, and then all of a sudden, RPGs or mortars or small arms fire or whatever, and it starts cracking over your head. At one point, I mean, it's all war stories, right? I mean, calling in artillery at 200 meters because the enemy was that close, and our own artillery, which one shell exploding, it's like a 100-pound shell, and one shell exploding is 50 meters of death inside of it. We had people getting hit with friendly fire. We had guys in our track that they flipped the vehicle over and drowned. We had people that got just killed because of enemy fire. There's so many stories I really can't even get into it. I would love to tell them all, but it would really take a long time to even describe what that's like. The one thing I can say is you are a robot. You forget yourself. You have no sense of self. You have no sense of history. You have no past. You have no future. All you know is the present, and all you know is how to survive right now, and that your team around you, the other Marines that are around you, and the corpsmen, that's it. You guys are in it together, and it's the ultimate chess match. You win or you lose, and the politics get real simple at that point. So it changes you. There's really no other way around it. It just changes you. So much more to be said there, but I'll wrap that up there. Man, talking about rolling into Baghdad, my unit was the unit that secured the circle that when the Saddam statue fell, we secured that circle and had pushed on to the next area. While if you ever look at the videos of that, you'll see 3/4. It's the tank wreckers that are pulling down that statue. I have a piece of that statue. And all of this happened before I was 20 years old. So came back from Iraq on ship, stopped in Australia, Hawaii, back home, and then had about 6 months, and then trained up and deployed to Iraq again. So on the next video, I'm going to talk about that second tour. I'm going to talk about being in a leadership role on that as a squad leader, and losing one of my Marines, Chance Phelps. So this video is almost 10 minutes long. I'm going to knock out my push-ups and call it a night. Basra International Airport. That was the freaking airport. I lost track. I think I did enough. We'll see.